Sad little girl tells the young billionaire at school, "I didn't get a Christmas present." When he discovers why, he does something unbelievable. Rowan pulled the car over on the side street and looked out the window. The school seemed smaller than he remembered. 23 years later, the red brick building was still there, but the windows had been painted blue, and there was a new playground in the yard. He grabbed the envelope from the passenger seat. Inside was a check that would make a difference in the school's budget for a good while. Rowan didn't want a party, a speech, or a plaque with his name on it. He just wanted to drop off the money and leave. "This will be quick," he muttered to himself. The front office was in the same place as before. A woman with grey hair greeted him with a genuine smile. "Can I help you?" "I'd like to speak with the principal. It's about a donation." "Of course. She's just finishing a meeting." "Can you wait about 5 minutes?" Rowan nodded and sat in a plastic chair. The hallway smelled of disinfectant and crayons, exactly like it used to. The bell rang, and children began to pour out of the classrooms, their voices echoing off the walls. The meeting with the principal was brief. 15 minutes to deliver the donation, decline any public recognition, and explain that he preferred to remain anonymous. She thanked him several times, and he politely ended the conversation. "Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell. This will help the children immensely." "I hope so." Rowan left the office and walked down the hall toward the exit. Most of the parents had already picked up their children, but there were still a few kids waiting. He pushed open the main door and felt the cool afternoon air. That's when he saw her. A little girl was sitting alone on the front steps. She must have been about 4, with messy blonde hair that shone in the sun and light blue eyes that seemed too big for her small face. She wore a faded pink coat that looked too big for her and worn-out white sneakers. She swung her legs slowly, staring at the ground with a sad expression. Rowan stopped. Something about the girl's posture bothered him. She looked lost. "Are you okay?" he asked, approaching her. The little girl looked up. Her eyes were red as if she had been crying. "I didn't get a Christmas present," she said suddenly, without even asking who he was. The sentence caught Rowan completely by surprise. "What?" "I didn't get a Christmas present," she repeated, looking directly at him. "And I really wanted one. All my friends got one." She wiped her nose with the sleeve of her coat. "Daddy lost his job. And our house is sad. We didn't even have a Christmas dinner like in other years, just buttered noodles." Rowan felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. The casual way she spoke about something so painful left him speechless. He hesitated, then sat down on the step next to her. "What's your name?" "Emily, and you?" "Rowan." He didn't know what to say about the Christmas comment. "Do you go to school here?" Emily nodded. "I do. I'm in preschool, but I wish things were different." "Different how?" "I wish we had money, that Daddy hadn't lost his job, that we had a real Christmas." The words came out so directly that Rowan was speechless. It was as if the girl was reporting simple facts, unaware of the emotional weight of what she was saying. "So when did your dad lose his job?" "In November. He came home really sad and told Mommy he didn't have a job anymore. They thought I wasn't listening, but I was." Emily fiddled with the hem of her coat. "Then everything started to get different at home." "Different how?" "They stop talking when I come into the room. Mommy stares at the bills on the kitchen table and sighs. Daddy goes out every morning to look for work and comes back really tired." She looked at him. "And they think I don't understand? But I understand a little." Rowan felt a tightness in his chest. How was a child so young already learning that life could be cruel? And at Christmas? Christmas was worse. In other years, we always had turkey and stuffing. My grandma would come for dinner and bring presents. But this year, Emily shrugged. My grandma is sick and couldn't come, and Mommy said we were going to do something different, simpler. And what did you do? Buttered noodles, and Mommy tried to make it seem special, you know. She put the nice tablecloth on the table and lit a candle. But I knew it was because there was no money for anything else. The simplicity with which Emily described the situation was heartbreaking. Rowan could perfectly picture the scene, a family trying to maintain their dignity in an impossible situation. And presents? There weren't any. Mommy said Santa Claus was very busy this year and that maybe he would come later. But I know he's not coming. Emily looked at her hands. My friend Sophia said Santa only comes for kids who have money. Your friend said that? She did. And I think she's right because all the kids in my class got presents except me. Sophia got a doll that talks. Peter got a car that turns into a robot. Emily sighed. Tight, and I pretended I got things too, but I think they knew I was lying. Rowan couldn't respond. How could he explain to a 4-year-old that the world was sometimes unfair? Do you think it's true that Santa Claus only likes rich kids? Emily asked. The question was so direct, so laden with hope and fear, that Rowan felt like crying. I think, he said finally, that sometimes things get complicated for adults. It has nothing to do with you being good or bad. Then why didn't I get anything? I was good all year. I helped Mommy with the dishes. I didn't fight at school. I ate all my food. The list of good deeds that Emily recited as evidence that she deserved a present made Rowan feel as if his heart was being squeezed. Emily, honey. A woman appeared at the school door. She had blonde hair like the girls and wore a simple, clean dress. I'm done talking with your teacher. We can go. Emily stood up quickly, but before she left, she looked at Rowan one last time. Thanks for talking to me, Rowan. No one ever listens when I talk about these things. Thank you, Emily. She ran to her mother, who took her hand. Rowan watched them walk down the street. Emily's mother walked slowly, as if each step took an effort. Rowan sat on the steps for a few more minutes, trying to process what had just happened. A 4-year-old child had just told him, with devastating simplicity, what it was like to not have Christmas. He stood up and walked to his car. On the way, Emily's words echoed in his head. I didn't get a Christmas present. Our house is sad. Does Santa only like rich kids? Rowan started the engine but remained parked for a while. There was something in Emily's brutal honesty that had shaken him deeply. She wasn't asking for pity. She was just sharing her reality with the naturalness that only children possess. His house was in a quiet neighborhood, with wide streets and well-kept lawns. It was a completely different world from the one Emily knew. Rowan parked in the garage and entered through the kitchen door. The silence greeted him, as always. He went straight to his office on the 2nd floor. On the walls, diplomas and certificates told the story of his success. Rowan Mitchell, owner of a small chain of boutique hotels. 42 years old, successful, financially stable, and alone. Rowan opened a desk drawer and searched until he found an old shoebox. Inside were old photos he had kept for years. He took out a small album and began to flip through it. There he was, at 6 years old, smiling with his front teeth missing. His mother, young and beautiful, hugged him in a photo taken in the backyard. His father appeared in few photos, always serious, always tired. Rowan stopped at a specific photo. It was the Christmas of his 7th year. He was sitting on the living room floor, holding a small, cheap toy car. It was the only present under the dry tree his mother had managed to buy. He remembered that day perfectly. He had woken up early, full of expectation, imagining the presents he would find. When he came downstairs and saw only the car, he felt a pang of disappointment. "Do you like it, sweetie?" his mother had asked, anxiety in her voice. "I do, Mum. It's the best car in the world." She had smiled, but Rowan had seen the tears in her eyes. Back then, his father worked 2 jobs to pay the rent. There was no money for expensive presents, a special dinner or decorations. Even so, his mother tried to make the day special. She made cookies with the little sugar they had, put music on the old radio and made up games. But Rowan remembered the sadness that hung over the house during those hard times. The heavy silence when there wasn't enough money. The way the adults spoke softly about bills, thinking he didn't understand. The feeling that the world had forgotten about his family, exactly how Emily was feeling now. Rowan closed the album and leaned back in his chair. The little blonde girl with blue eyes had touched a wound he thought had healed. She had awakened memories he preferred to keep buried, but maybe it was time to face them. He stood up and went to the window. Outside, the afternoon was ending. Some houses already had lights on, and he could imagine families gathering for dinner, children doing homework, parents coming home from work, small moments of everyday happiness. Emily was probably at home now, maybe helping her mother in the kitchen or playing alone. And tomorrow would be another day just like it, with no presents, no surprises, just the reality of a family trying to stick together during hard times. Rowan returned to his desk and picked up the photo from his 7th Christmas again. The little boy in the picture looked so hopeful, even with only a cheap present in his hands. When had that hope turned into the loneliness he lived in today? "She reminded me of myself," he said aloud to the empty office, and it was true. Emily, with her simple honesty and transparent sadness, reminded him of who he had been before he built walls around his heart. She reminded him of what it felt like to be small in a big, complicated world. Rowan put the photos back in the box and placed it in the drawer, but he couldn't get Emily out of his head, a 4-year-old girl who asked if Santa Claus only liked rich kids, a child who pretended to have received presents so she wouldn't feel different from her friends. He went down to the kitchen and took an apple from the fridge. There was enough food for a week, good food that he barely touched. Emily had talked about buttered noodles as if it were the saddest thing in the world, and in a way it was, not because of the food itself, but because of what it represented. Rowan knew there was no Santa Claus. He knew Emily's parents were probably doing everything they could to put food on the table and pay the basic bills. Presents were a luxury they couldn't afford. But that didn't mean Emily should grow up feeling like she had been forgotten by the world. He went up to his room and lay on the bed, but he knew sleep wouldn't come easily. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about his conversation with Emily, the old photos, the sadness he had recognized in those blue eyes. A child shouldn't carry that kind of disillusionment. She shouldn't question if she was good enough to deserve a present. She shouldn't see her parents struggling and pretend not to understand. "Fierce, and I don't want her to grow up with that same emptiness," he murmured into the darkness. For the first time in a long time, Rowan had a purpose that went beyond business and financial success. He didn't know what he would do yet, but he knew he would do something. Emily would not be forgotten, not if he could help it. That little blonde girl with sad eyes deserved to know that someone cared. She deserved to feel that she hadn't been abandoned by the world, and Rowan was going to make sure she knew it. Rowan didn't sleep well that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emily's face, heard her voice asking if Santa Claus only liked rich kids. The words echoed in his mind like a refrain that refused to fade. Morning came slowly, and he got up before his alarm went off, already knowing exactly what he needed to do. He had a quick breakfast, barely touching the toast he had made. His mind was focused on one thing, finding the perfect present for Emily. Something that would show her she hadn't been forgotten, that she deserved all the joy in the world. He left the house with a clear purpose. He drove through the city streets looking for the right store, passing by several large, noisy toy stores. But none of them felt right. Emily deserved something special, unique, made with care. That's when he found a small craft shop downtown. The window was filled with handmade objects, dolls, wooden toys, stuffed animals. Everything had that personal touch he was looking for. The woman behind the counter was elderly, with white hair tied in a neat bun and glasses hanging from a gold chain. Her hands looked skilled and careful, accustomed to creating beautiful things with patience and love. "Can I help you?" she asked with a genuine smile that lit up her whole face. "I need a doll, something special, handmade. It's for a very special 4-year-old girl." The woman's eyes sparkled with interest. Oh, how lovely. A doll for a special little girl. "I have several beautiful options. What is this child like?" Rowan thought for a moment, picturing Emily in his mind. She has blonde hair and light blue eyes. She's a very brave and sweet child. She's been through some hard times recently. The woman nodded with understanding, as if she perfectly understood what Rowan wasn't saying. "I see. Come, I'll show you some special options." She led him to a shelf where there were several handmade dolls. They were all beautiful and unique, clearly made with care and attention to detail. But one in particular caught Rowan's eye immediately. The doll had soft blonde yarn hair that shone gently in the shop's light. The blue eyes were embroidered with impressive care, each stitch creating a sweet and welcoming expression. She wore a light pink dress with tiny embroidered flowers and was the perfect size for a child to hug comfortably. "This one," he said, picking up the doll carefully. "She's perfect." "Excellent choice. This was one of my favorites to make. I spent 3 whole days working on her." The woman gently touched the doll's dress. "She was made with a lot of love. You know, I always imagine the child who will receive each doll I make. It's exactly what I was looking for, and could you personalize it in some way? Put a name on it?" "Of course, what name would you like?" "Emily. Emily." The woman smiled even wider. "Emily, what a beautiful name. I'll embroider it right here on the little dress with golden thread. It will look beautiful and will last forever." Rowan waited as she worked, watching every careful movement of the needle. Each stitch was made with attention and care, as if she understood the importance of that gift. The woman hummed softly as she embroidered, creating a peaceful atmosphere in the small shop. "There," she said finally, showing the result with pride. "Look how beautiful it turned out. Emily will love this doll." The golden letters shone gently on the pink dress, forming the name Emily in an elegant and delicate way. It was perfect. "That's beautiful," Rowan said, truly impressed. "Thank you very much. Now I'll put it in a special box for you." She took a pink cardboard box decorated with ribbons and placed the doll inside carefully, wrapping it in tissue paper. Special gifts deserve special packaging. Rowan paid and took the wrapped box. On the way to the school, he mentally rehearsed what he would say, how to explain that he had come back, how to make Emily believe the Santa Claus story, how to make it all seem natural and magical at the same time. He arrived at the school exactly at recess time. He could hear the children playing in the yard, their cheerful voices mixing with the sound of running feet and carefree laughter. He parked and walked to the entrance, carrying the box against his chest as if it were a treasure. Emily was sitting alone on the same bench as yesterday, watching the other children play on the playground. She seemed smaller today, more vulnerable, and Rowan felt his heart ache seeing her there, clearly still processing everything that had happened in their previous conversation. When she saw him approaching, her eyes widened in genuine surprise. "Rowan, you came back!" She stood up from the bench, clearly excited but also confused. I thought I wouldn't see you again." "I did come back." He approached slowly, holding the box carefully. "Actually, I came here because I have something very important for you." Emily tilted her head, curious, her blue eyes fixed on the pink box in his hands. "For me? But why?" "It's an interesting story." Rowan knelt in front of her, placing the box carefully on the ground between them. "Last night, after I got home, something very special happened." Emily's eyes widened even more. "What was it?" "I spoke with Santa Claus." Rowan spoke slowly, watching her reaction. "He showed up at my house after you told me about Christmas, and he told me something very important." Emily sat on the edge of the bench, leaning forward with full interest. "Santa Claus went to your house. For real?" "For real. And he was very worried. He said he made a terrible mistake here in town." "What kind of mistake?" "He forgot to deliver something very special to a very special little girl." Rowan pushed the box towards her. He really forgot. It was his mistake. And he asked me to fix his mistake by bringing this to you. Emily looked at the box as if it was something magical. "Are you sure it's for me?" "It's not for another Emily." "I'm sure. He described you perfectly. He said you were a brave girl, with blonde hair and blue eyes, who went to this school and deserved something very special." With hands trembling with anticipation, Emily began to unwrap the gift. She made each movement with care, as if she wanted to savor every second of that moment. When she finally saw the doll, her face transformed completely. It was as if the sun had come out after a long, dark storm. Her eyes lit up, her mouth opened into a huge smile, and she let out a small cry of joy. She looks like me." Emily picked up the doll with the utmost care, as if it were made of crystal. "And look, it has my name." "It's written here on the dress." She traced the golden letters with her finger. "Emily. It's really my name." "It is." Santa Claus wanted to be absolutely sure it got to the right person. Emily hugged the doll against her chest and closed her eyes. For a long moment, she was silent, just feeling the gift she never thought she would receive. When she opened her eyes, they were filled with tears of pure joy. "She's the most beautiful thing in the whole world," she whispered, as if telling a secret. "What should I name her? What name do you think suits her?" Emily looked at the doll for a long time, studying every detail. "Luna. Like the other doll I had before, only this one is new and perfect and beautiful." She looked up at Rowan. "Did you really talk to Santa Claus? For real?" Rowan smiled warmly. "I did, and he said you were one of the kindest and bravest children in the whole city. That's why this doll is so special." Emily hugged Luna once more, then looked directly at Rowan with those huge, grateful blue eyes. "Are you my friend now?" The question was so simple, so direct and honest, that Rowan felt his heart tighten with emotion. "If you want me to be—" "I do," Emily said without a second's hesitation. "You're my first real adult friend." Rowan sat on the bench next to her, feeling an emotion he hadn't felt in years. "And you're my first 4-year-old friend," Emily laughed, a cheerful, musical sound that echoed through the yard and seemed to make the whole day brighter. "Can I tell you a secret?" "Of course. I thought I was never going to get a present. I thought the world had really forgotten about me." She looked at Luna with adoration. "But you remembered, and Santa Claus remembered too." Rowan couldn't speak for a moment. The pure gratitude in Emily's eyes was almost too much to bear. How could a simple doll make such a difference in a child's life? "I know," he said finally, when he managed to find his voice. "I went to school here when I was a kid. I sat on this very bench many times." Emily looked at him with renewed interest and surprise. "Really? Here at this school?" "Right here. A long time ago, when I was about your age." "And what were you like when you were little?" Rowan thought for a moment, remembering the boy he had been. "A lot like you, actually. Sometimes a little sad, sometimes afraid that things wouldn't work out, sometimes feeling a little forgotten too." "And did things work out?" "They did. It took time and sometimes it was hard, but they did." He looked around the familiar yard. "This place taught me a lot of important things about friendship, about dreaming, about not giving up." Emily swung her legs, hugging Luna to herself. "And what do you do now? Where do you work?" "I own a few hotels." Her eyes widened with admiration. "Hotels? Like those big, beautiful places where people sleep when they travel?" "Exactly." "Wow, you must be really rich then, like in the movies." Rowan laughed at her simplicity. "I do okay, it's true. But do you know what I've learned? What's more important than money?" "What?" "Having real friends like you." Emily smiled, squeezing Luna against her. "And now you own a hotel. That must be amazing. Do you live in a hotel?" "No, I have a normal house, but it's nice working with hotels. But do you know what the most important place in my whole life was?" "What?" Rowan pointed to the school building behind them. "Here. This school was my first really important place." Emily looked at the school, then back at him. "Sounds for real?" "For real. This is where I learned to read, to write, to make real friends. This is where I discovered I could dream of big things and work to achieve them." He paused, looking at her. "And this is where I met you." "So you were just like me," Emily exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. "You used to sit on this bench and watch the other kids play." "Exactly like you. Sometimes I felt lonely, sometimes sad, but always dreaming. And look at you now. You have hotels and everything, and you know Santa Claus." She looked at him with total admiration. "Does that mean I can have nice things too when I grow up?" "You can, Emily. You can have anything you want in life. You just have to believe in yourself and never give up on your dreams." Emily was quiet for a moment, processing the words. "My mum always says things will get better soon, but sometimes it's hard to believe. I understand perfectly. Sometimes it was very hard for me too when I was little, but look where I am now. And look how I met you." "That's true." Emily looked at Luna, then at him. "Do you think my dad will find a job soon?" The question surprised Rowan with its maturity. "I think so. Your dad seems like a good, hard-working person, and people like that always find a way." "I hope so. I want our house to stop being sad forever." Rowan felt the urge to hug the girl, but he restrained himself. "You know what I think? I think your house is already less sad today. Why? Because you're happy now. And when you're happy, your whole house gets happy too. It's magic. Emily considered this seriously. That makes sense. When I come home smiling, Mommy smiles too. And when Mommy smiles, Daddy smiles. That's exactly how it works. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the other children play on the playground. Emily played with Luna's hair, combing it with her small, careful fingers. Rowan? Yes. Thank you so much for being my friend. And thank you so much for bringing me Luna. It's the best present I've ever gotten in my life. Thank you for being my friend, Emily. You made me remember important things I had forgotten. The school bell rang, signaling the end of recess. Emily stood up reluctantly, holding Luna with all the care in the world. I have to go back to class now. Of course. You need to study hard. Are you leaving now? Rowan hesitated for a moment. I am, but can I come back another day to see how you and Luna are getting along? Emily's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Yes, you can. I'll take great care of Luna and I'll tell her all about you. She needs to get to know my special friend better. It will be a pleasure to get to know her better too. Emily started running towards the school, but stopped halfway and turned around. Rowan, can you tell Santa Claus I said thank you very much, and that I'll take care of Luna forever? I will. He'll be very happy to know. Emily waved energetically and ran inside the school, hugging Luna as if she would never let go. Rowan could hear her talking excitedly to other children who approached to see the new doll. Rowan sat on the bench for a few more minutes, watching the school quiet down after recess. There was something different in the air today, a lightness and joy that wasn't there before. Maybe it was the feeling of having done something genuinely right, something that really mattered in the world. He stood up slowly and walked back to his car. On the way, he thought about Emily's expression when she saw Luna, the way her eyes shone when she realized her name was embroidered on the dress. He thought about the question of friendship, so direct and honest that it touched his heart in a way he hadn't expected. As he drove home, Rowan was already thinking about his next visit. Emily had said he could come back, and he definitely would. After all, real friends don't disappear after giving a gift, and Emily deserved to have a real friend in her life. A few days had passed since Rowan had given Luna to Emily. He had thought about the girl every day, wondering how she was, if she was taking good care of the doll, if she was still happy. The curiosity and affection he felt for his new friend made him decide to go back to the school to visit her. It was a Thursday afternoon when Rowan parked again on the school's side street. The sun was high and warm, and he could hear the familiar noise of children at recess. He walked to the yard and looked for Emily among the playing children. He found her sitting alone under a tree, talking softly to Luna. The doll was well cared for, with her hair combed and her dress still clean and pretty. Emily seemed to be telling the doll a story, gesturing with her small hands. "Hi, Emily," Rowan said, approaching slowly. Emily looked up and her eyes lit up immediately. "Rowan! You came back." She stood up quickly, holding Luna against her chest. "Luna, look who's here. It's Rowan, my friend I told you about." Rowan smiled, pretending to greet the doll. "Hi, Luna. Has Emily been taking good care of you?" Emily put on a different voice, as if it were Luna responding. "She takes very good care of me. We sleep together every night and she tells me stories." "That's good. You two seem to be great friends." "We are," Emily laughed. "I was telling Luna about my plans for when I grow up." "Oh yeah? And what are those plans?" Emily sat on the ground, motioning for Rowan to sit too. "I'm going to have a really pretty restaurant, with round windows and lots of flowers out front. Sounds amazing. And what kind of food will you make?" "All kinds. Chocolate cake, pasta, pizza, warm soup for cold days." Emily spoke with her eyes shining with excitement. "And you know what else?" "What?" "I'm going to give free food to anyone who's hungry. Like, if someone doesn't have money but is hungry, they can eat anyway." Rowan felt something stir in his chest. The simplicity and kindness in Emily's words were breathtaking. "That's very beautiful, Emily. My mom always says everyone deserves to eat well, and I agree." Emily adjusted Luna in her lap. "In my restaurant, no one will go hungry." It was then that Rowan noticed something that bothered him. He looked around and saw that all the other children had lunch boxes or were eating something, but Emily had nothing. "Emily, did you not bring a snack today?" Emily looked down and fiddled with Luna's dress. "South, there was nothing at home to bring." The answer was said so naturally that it hurt even more. Rowan felt a pang in his chest as he realized Emily was used to this situation. "Are you hungry?" Emily shrugged. "A little, but it's okay. I'll eat at school during lunch." Rowan stood up. "How about we go get something to eat right now?" "You, me, and Luna." Emily's eyes widened. "Really? But class is starting soon. We'll be back before class. What do you think?" Emily looked at Luna, as if asking the doll for permission. "What do you think, Luna?" She paused, as if listening for a response. "Luna said it's a great idea." Rowan laughed. "Then it's settled. Let's find a nice place to eat." They left the school and walked down the street. Emily held Luna with one hand and pointed out interesting things with the other, as if it were a special outing. Rowan watched how she found joy in simple things. A dog sleeping on the sidewalk, flowers in a garden, a bird singing in a tree. "Look at that bakery," Emily said, pointing to a small bakery with a window full of cakes and pastries. "It smells so good. Do you want to go in?" "Can I really?" "Of course." They entered the bakery and were greeted by the delicious smell of fresh bread and cake. Emily stood at the entrance for a moment, taking a deep breath. "It smells like heaven must smell," she said softly. They sat at a small table near the window. Emily placed Luna in the chair next to her, as if the doll were really going to participate in the snack. "What do you want to eat?" Rowan asked. Emily looked at the menu carefully. "Can I choose anything?" "Anything. A ham and cheese sandwich and an orange juice. And can Luna have juice too?" "Of course she can." The waitress brought their order and Emily ate slowly, savoring every bite. Every now and then, she would pretend to feed Luna, talking softly to the doll. "Is the sandwich good?" Rowan asked. "It's great. It's just like the one my mom used to make when we had ham at home." Emily took a sip of her juice. "You know, when I have my restaurant, I'm going to make sandwiches like this for the kids. Tell me more about this restaurant." Emily immediately perked up. "It's going to be really big, with wooden tables and colorful chairs. Each table will have a little vase with different flowers." She gestured as she spoke, painting the picture in her mind. "And there will be a huge kitchen where I'll make everything with lots of love. And the round windows. Oh yes, the windows will be round to let in lots of light. And from each window, you'll see the garden full of flowers that I'm going to plant." Emily smiled. "Find people will be able to eat while looking at the flowers." Rowan listened in silence, increasingly impressed with the detailed vision Emily had of the future. "And you know what else? I'll have a special area for children, with storybooks and games. That way, while the parents eat, the kids can play." "It sounds like a wonderful place." "It will be. And I'm going to hire people who can't get jobs elsewhere, like my dad right now." Emily paused. "He's very good at what he does, but sometimes people don't give him a chance." Rowan felt a lump in his throat. How could a 4-year-old have so much wisdom and compassion? "And the free food part?" he asked. "Oh, that's the most important part." Emily leaned forward as if to tell a secret. "Every day at lunchtime, anyone who is hungry can come in and eat. They don't have to pay anything." "But how will you keep the restaurant running?" Emily thought for a moment. "The people who can pay will pay, and with that money, I'll buy food to give to those who can't pay." "It's simple." Emily's childlike logic was both naive and profound. Rowan was silent for a moment, moved by the girl's sweetness and worldview. "You've thought of everything," he said finally. "I think about it every day. When I lie in bed with Luna, we plan what the restaurant will be like." Emily looked out the window. "And my mum says dreaming doesn't cost anything, so I dream a lot." "Your mum is right, and I think you'll be able to make that dream come true." "Do you really think so?" "I do. You have everything you need, a good heart and lots of ideas." Emily smiled and took another bite of her sandwich. "Rowan, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "What's it like to own a hotel?" "It must be similar to owning a restaurant." "It is similar. I make sure people feel good when they're at my hotels, just like you want to do in your restaurant." "And do you like it?" "I do. But you know what else? Talking to you about your restaurant, I'm thinking of new things for my hotels. What kind of things? Maybe a space for children to play, or a garden where guests can see how the food grows. Emily clapped her hands. That would be amazing, just like in my restaurant with the flowers. They finished eating, and Rowan paid the bill. Emily thanked him several times, always including Luna in her thanks. As they walked back to the school, Emily was quieter, as if she was thinking about something important. "But Rowan," she said finally. "Yes. Do you think I can see your house?" The question caught Rowan by surprise. He looked at Emily, who was watching him expectantly. "You want to see my house?" "I do. It must be very pretty." "And Luna wants to see it too, right, Luna?" Emily looked at the doll. She said yes. Rowan thought for a moment. Why not? Emily had become a special friend and he wanted to return her trust. "I think so," he said. "You can see my house." Emily's face lit up. "Really? When?" "How about this weekend? We can arrange it with your mum. She'll like you, I'm sure, and she'll be happy to know I have such a nice friend. I'd like to meet your mum too. And your dad." Emily was quiet for a moment. "They'll like you. My mum always says that good people attract good people." "Your mum sounds very wise." "She is. And my dad too. He's just a little sad right now because of his job." They arrived at the school and Emily stopped before going in. "Thanks for the snack, Rowan. It was the best snack of my life. Thank you for telling me about your restaurant. Now I know that when it exists, it'll be the first place I eat." Emily laughed. "You'll be my first special customer. And Luna too." She ran into the school, waving, until she disappeared from sight. Rowan stood on the sidewalk for a few minutes, thinking about the conversation they had. Emily was only 4, but her words had touched something deep within him. The way she dreamed of helping others, even after facing difficulties. The natural way she spoke about feeding the hungry. The way she included Luna in everything, treating the doll like a real friend. On the way back home, Rowan couldn't stop thinking about the restaurant with round windows and flowers, about a 4-year-old's vision of how the world could be better, about the simplicity of wanting to feed the hungry. And now Emily wanted to see his house. The idea of showing her his home made Rowan feel nervous and excited at the same time. How would Emily see his life? What would she think of the big house and expensive objects? But one thing he knew for sure. Emily had a purity of heart that he hadn't seen in a long time, and whatever her reaction to his house was, it would be honest and true. Just like everything Emily did. The weekend arrived faster than Rowan expected. On Friday, he'd met Emily at school and arranged with her to visit her family on Saturday afternoon. Emily was thrilled with the idea and promised to talk to her parents about the invitation. "They'll be happy to meet you," Emily said, hugging Luna. "My mom always wants to meet my friends." Now, standing in front of Emily's house, Rowan felt a mix of nervousness and curiosity. The house was small but well kept, with a simple front garden and a low white-painted fence. There were flowers planted in makeshift pots and a small porch with 2 plastic chairs. Rowan knocked on the door softly. He could hear voices inside and footsteps approaching. The door opened and a blonde woman appeared, smiling warmly. It was Claire, Emily's mother, and Rowan could see where the girl had inherited her light blue eyes. "But you must be Rowan," Claire said, extending her hand. "Emily doesn't stop talking about you. I'm Claire, her mom." "A pleasure to meet you, Claire. Thank you for having me." "Not at all. Please, come in." Rowan entered the house and was immediately enveloped in a welcoming atmosphere. It was small, but everything was clean and organized. The furniture was simple, some clearly old, but there was care in every detail that spoke of the people who lived there. "Rowan!" Emily came running down the hallway, holding Luna. "You really came! Luna, look who's here!" "Hi, Emily. Hi, Luna," Rowan said, smiling. Come see the house." Emily took his hand and started pulling him down the hall. "So I want to show you everything." "Emily, let Rowan breathe first," Claire said, laughing. "Malcolm, come here. Emily's friend is here." A man appeared from the kitchen, drying his hands on a dish towel. He was tall, with brown hair and kind eyes, but Rowan could notice a subtle sadness in his posture. There was something in his slightly stooped shoulders that suggested the weight of worries. "Malcolm," the man said, extending his hand. "Pleasure to meet you." "Rowan, the pleasure is mine." Malcolm's handshake was firm, that of someone used to manual labor. His hands were calloused, from someone who had worked hard his whole life. "Please, have a seat," Claire said, pointing to the living room sofa. "I made a cake this morning. How about we have some with coffee?" "That would be great, thank you." Emily sat next to Rowan on the sofa, placing Luna carefully between them. "Rowan, want to see where Luna sleeps?" "Of course." Emily stood up and led him to a corner of the room where there was a small box lined with a soft cloth. "She sleeps here. I made a special little bed." Emily placed Luna in the box carefully. "But now I tell you everything too, Luna. Rowan is our friend." Rowan watched the scene, touched by the way Emily treated the doll as a real companion. The box was simple, made of cardboard decorated with colored paper, but there was a lot of love in the craftsmanship. "The little bed is beautiful," Rowan said. "Mommy helped me make it. Every doll needs a special place to sleep." Claire returned from the kitchen carrying a tray with coffee, glasses of juice, and slices of a simple cornmeal cake. Malcolm followed her with small plates and napkins. "I hope you like cornmeal cake," Claire said, serving everyone. "It's what we had in the house to make." "I love cornmeal cake," Rowan lied gently, though he couldn't actually remember the last time he'd had one. They all sat in the living room, in a natural arrangement that made Rowan feel immediately welcome. Emily sat on the floor next to Luna's box, as if wanting to include the doll in the conversation. "Emily told me you met at school," Claire said. "That's right, I went there to make a donation and we ended up talking." Rowan took a sip of his coffee. "She's a very special girl." "That she is," Malcolm said, looking at his daughter with affection. "She's always been very smart and loving." "Daddy, tell Rowan about your old job," Emily said suddenly. "He had a very important job." Rowan noticed how Malcolm shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Claire placed a hand on her husband's arm in a gesture of silent support. "Emily," Claire began. "No, it's okay," Malcolm said, forcing a smile. "I worked at a factory. I made parts for industrial machines." "For how many years?" Rowan asked. 15 years. "I started there right after Emily was born." Malcolm looked at his own hands. "It was a good job, fair pay, good colleagues. I liked what I did." "And what happened?" Malcolm sighed. "The company decided to close the factory. They said it wasn't profitable enough." "Was it far from here?" Rowan asked, though something in his chest was already tightening with a terrible suspicion. "It was, in the industrial park, on the other side of town. It took me almost an hour to get there by bus every day." Malcolm took a sip of his coffee. "See, but it's what supported everything here at home." Emily got up and went to sit next to her father. "Daddy is very good at what he does. The bosses always praised him." Malcolm ran a hand through his daughter's hair affectionately. "It was a good place to work. There were a lot of good people there." "Did everyone lose their jobs?" Rowan asked. "Everyone. 120 employees." Malcolm shook his head. "Some have found new jobs, others are still looking, like me." Claire got up to get more coffee from the kitchen. Rowan could see that the subject was painful for the whole family. "And why exactly did it close?" Rowan insisted, though he feared the answer. "They said an investor bought the land, wanted to tear everything down to build something else." Malcolm looked out the window. It was an old building, but solid. It could have run for many more years. Rowan felt his stomach tighten. A terrible suspicion was growing inside him. "Chelsea, do you know what they're going to build in its place?" "It closed to become a hotel," they said, Malcolm replied without looking at him. "A boutique hotel, something like that. For people with money." The words hit Rowan like a punch to the gut. He almost dropped the coffee cup from his hands. He knew that story all too well. He knew it because he had been the one who bought that land. He had been the one who decided to close the factory to build his newest hotel. The air in the room seemed to get heavier. Rowan looked around and saw in a completely new light the simplicity of the furniture, the careful patches on the curtain, the way Claire stretched every penny to keep the house running. All of it was a consequence of a decision he had made coldly and calculatingly, thinking only of numbers and profits. "Are you okay?" Claire asked. returning from the kitchen and noticing Rowan's sudden paleness. "I'm fine, thank you," he managed to say, though his voice came out a bit strangled. Emily looked at him with concern. "Rowan, are you sad?" "I'm okay, Emily. I was just thinking about what your dad said." Malcolm continued talking, oblivious to the turmoil of emotions Rowan was feeling. "The worst part is that they closed it out of nowhere. On Friday, everything was normal. On Monday, we arrived and there was a notice on the door. They said we had 2 weeks to get our things." "Only 2 weeks?" Rowan managed to ask. "Only, and mind you, some of the employees had worked there for over 20 years. Malcolm shook his head. "They gave a basic severance package, the minimum required by law. And that was it." Rowan remembered that transaction. He had been advised by a team of lawyers who took care of all the legal details. For him, it had been just another investment, an opportunity to expand his business. He had never thought about the faces behind the numbers, the families that would be affected. "That must have been very difficult," Rowan said, feeling like a hypocrite. It still is." Malcolm looked at Emily Hunt, who was playing with Luna on the floor. "But we don't give up. I keep looking for work every day. Something will turn up." Claire sat down again and took her husband's hand. "Malcolm is persistent and very good at what he does. Someone will recognize that soon." "Definitely," Rowan said, though the words sounded empty even to himself. Emily got up and came to sit on her father's lap. "Daddy will find an even better job." "I'm sure of it." Malcolm kissed the top of his daughter's head. "With this cheering squad, how can I fail?" Rowan watched the scene and felt a mixture of admiration and guilt. Here was a family that, despite facing enormous difficulties because of a decision he had made, maintained their dignity and love for each other. They weren't asking for help or complaining. They were fighting together, with hope and determination. The silence that followed was comfortable for everyone but Rowan. He was struggling with the weight of what he had discovered, trying to process the fact that he was directly responsible for this family's suffering. "The cake is delicious," he said finally, trying to return to normal conversation. "Thank you," Claire said, smiling. "It's my mother's recipe, simple but tasty." Emily turned to Rowan. "Rowan, when I have my restaurant, I'm going to make cake just like Mommy's to give to people." "It will be the best cake in the restaurant," Rowan said, forcing a smile. The conversation continued for another hour, but Rowan was only half present. His mind was racing with the discovery he had made. How could he look into the eyes of Emily, Claire, Malcolm, knowing that he was responsible for taking away their stability? When he finally said goodbye, promising to return soon, Rowan left the house carrying a huge weight on his chest. Emily walked him to the door, holding Luna. "Thanks for coming, Rowan. My parents really liked you." "I really liked them too, Emily. Next time you can see my room too." "That would be great." Rowan walked to his car in silence, feeling Emily's eyes watching him from the door. When he started the engine and drove away, a single certainty echoed in his mind. He had to do something to fix what he had broken, but he still didn't know how. The days following the visit to Emily's house were the hardest Rowan had experienced in years. He could barely sleep, barely concentrate on work. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Malcolm's kind face talking about the factory that had closed to become a hotel. He heard the words again. It was far, but it's what supported everything. The image of Claire stretching every penny to keep the house running wouldn't leave his mind. The dignified simplicity of the family, who didn't ask for help but were clearly struggling. Emily's innocent dream of having a restaurant to feed the hungry, all because of a decision he had made coldly, thinking only of numbers and profits. On Wednesday morning, Rowan cancelled all his meetings for the day. His secretary was surprised, as he never did that without an important reason. But this time, there was a reason, the most important one of his life. He left home with a clear destination in mind. He needed to see with his own eyes the place that had destroyed the lives of so many people. He needed to face the reality of what he had done, to touch the walls that had housed dreams and hopes. The site of the old factory was in the city's industrial park, a neighborhood Rowan only knew from the reports he received from his lawyers and architects. He had never set foot there before. To him, It had always been just an address on a spreadsheet, an investment with potential for return. He drove through streets that became progressively simpler, smaller houses, gardens cared for with love, but without resources. Local businesses that clearly served the area's workers, a bakery with handwritten prices, a small pharmacy, a corner store where people knew each other by name. It was a world completely different from his own. When he arrived at the site, he stopped the car in front of the closed gates and watched for a long time. The factory was still standing, but completely empty. There was a large modern sign indicating that a new hotel from the Mitchell Boutique Hotels chain would be built there. His name was stamped on it, proud and imposing, announcing progress and modernity. But for Rowan, at that moment, the sign looked like a tombstone. He got out of the car and approached the fence. The main gate was locked with chains and padlocks, but there was a side opening in the fence where he managed to get in. The grounds were too quiet, only the wind rustling some forgotten papers on the ground and making a strange noise as it passed through the metal structures. The factory building was exactly as Malcolm had described, old but solid. The brick walls were stained by time and decades of work, but the structure seemed firm and sturdy. Large, dusty windows let in golden shafts of sunlight, creating patterns on the abandoned floor. Rowan walked slowly around the exterior, trying to imagine what the place had been like when it was running. 120 people arrived there every day for the morning and afternoon shifts. They talked, laughed, worked side by side. Malcolm made his 1-hour bus trip to get there, then spent 8 hours creating parts for industrial machines. There were signs everywhere that life had stopped abruptly. A bulletin board in the cafeteria still showed notices about union meetings and social events that would never happen again. Calendars on the walls marked days that were suspended in time. A forgotten cup on an office desk suggested that someone had left expecting to return the next day, but that day never came. Rowan entered the main building through a door that had been left ajar. The silence was oppressive and heavy. His footsteps echoed on the concrete floor, creating a ghostly sound that multiplied through the empty corridors. The machines had been removed months ago, leaving only geometric marks on the floor where they had been installed for years. He walked among these marks, trying to imagine the noise that must have been there when everything was working. The sound of machines, of conversations between colleagues, of ringing phones, of life happening. He climbed a metal staircase to a mezzanine that overlooked the entire factory floor. From up there, he could get a full perspective of the space. It was bigger than he had imagined. From there, he could perfectly visualize how it had been, the constant movement of workers, each knowing their role, the energy of a productive place full of purpose. Now there was only silence and walls stained by time. Rowan sat in an old office chair that had been left behind and stayed there for a long time, just watching and thinking. How had he been able to reduce all of this to numbers on a spreadsheet? How had he managed to sign papers that resulted in the closure of this place without ever thinking about the faces behind the jobs? The weight of guilt was almost physical. He felt as if he were carrying a stone in his chest, making it difficult to even breathe. "I can't go on as if I don't know," he said aloud to the empty space. "This is not going to become a hotel." The words echoed in the silence, coming back to him amplified, and for the first time in days, Rowan felt something like relief. He had made a decision. He still didn't know exactly what he would do, but he knew he could no longer pretend he didn't know the consequences of his actions. He stayed at the factory for another 2 hours, walking through the empty corridors, going up and down stairs, entering rooms that were once full of life. He tried to absorb the scale of what had happened there. He tried to understand how a decision of his, made comfortably in his office, had reached here and shattered the lives of so many people. When he finally left, he knew his life had changed forever. He could no longer be the same person he had been before meeting Emily and her family. On the way back, Rowan stopped at a payphone and called Claire. His hands were trembling slightly as he dialed the number. "Hello?" "Hi, Claire, it's Rowan, Emily's friend." "Rowan, so good to hear from you. How are you?" "I'm okay." "Claire, I'd like to talk to you and Malcolm about something very important. Can I come by tonight?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Of course, you're always welcome here." "Did something happen?" It's complicated to explain over the phone. I'd rather talk in person if it's not an inconvenience. No problem at all. Emily will be happy to see you again. She was asking when you were coming back. See you soon then, and Claire, thank you. Rowan hung up the phone with his heart racing. He knew he was about to have the most difficult conversation of his life, but he also knew it was the only right thing to do. The rest of the day passed slowly, as if time were deliberately dragging. Rowan tried to work, but he couldn't concentrate on anything. He reviewed contracts without really reading them, answered emails automatically, took a few important calls, but his mind was completely focused on the conversation he would have that night. At 7 o'clock sharp, he was at Emily's door again. This time, however, his heart was pounding for completely different reasons. It wasn't anxiety about meeting new people. It was fear of having to face the truth about himself, of seeing their reaction when they found out who he really was. Emily opened the door before he even knocked, as if she had been waiting at the window. "Rowan, you came back." She hugged him tightly, without any reservation. "Luna missed you." "I told her you were coming back. I missed you two too." Claire appeared behind her daughter, smiling warmly. "Come in, Rowan. Malcolm is in the living room. He just got back from downtown." They gathered in the same arrangement as the last visit, but this time Rowan was clearly nervous. His hands were sweating and he couldn't sit still in his chair. Emily noticed immediately, "Are you okay? You look worried about something." "I am a little worried, Emily. I need to talk to your parents about something very important." Malcolm leaned forward, his attention fully on him. "What is it, Rowan? Can we help with anything?" Rowan took several deep breaths. There was no easy way to say it. There were no words that would make the truth less painful. "Malcolm, Claire, I need to tell you something. Something I found out after our conversation last Saturday." He paused, searching for the right words, knowing they would change everything between them. When Malcolm talked about the factory that closed to become a hotel, I recognized the story immediately. "Recognized how?" Claire asked, frowning. Rowan looked at Emily, who was watching him with innocent curiosity, having no idea what she was about to hear. Then he looked at her parents. "I bought that factory." The silence that followed was deafening. Malcolm and Claire looked at him as if he had spoken in another language, not fully understanding what he had just said. "What do you mean? You bought it?" Malcolm asked slowly, his tone changing. "I am the investor who bought the factory land. I closed it without knowing how much it hurt the people who worked there." Rowan felt his voice tremble. "But now I know. And I want to give back what I took." Malcolm stood up from his chair as if he had been electrocuted. His hands were shaking slightly. You were the one who closed our factory, who took our jobs." "I was. And I didn't even know people like you existed. To me, you were just numbers on a spreadsheet, operating costs." Rowan lowered his head, unable to maintain eye contact. "I never thought about the families that would be affected. I never thought that behind every job there was a story, a life, dreams." Claire put her hand to her mouth, clearly shocked. Emily looked from one adult to another, trying to understand what was happening, feeling the tension in the air. "Why are you telling us this?" Malcolm asked, his voice a mix of confusion, anger, and disbelief. "Because after meeting you, after seeing how Emily dreams of helping people, after understanding what my decision caused in your lives and the lives of 120 other families, I can no longer pretend I don't know." Rowan finally looked up and looked directly at Malcolm. "I want to fix this. I don't know exactly how yet, but I want to give back what I took from you and all the other families who were affected." Emily approached him slowly, holding Luna against her chest. "Rowan, does this mean you can help my daddy get a job again?" The girl's innocent question, asked with all the confidence in the world, made Rowan feel like crying. "I'm going to try, Emily. I'll do everything in my power." Malcolm was still standing, processing the information that had changed everything. Claire gently pulled him to sit down again, but he remained tense. "I don't understand," she said, her voice still in shock. "Why are you telling us this? What do you want from us?" "I don't want anything. I just want you to know the truth. And I want a chance to fix the terrible mistake I made." Silence reigned in the room again. Emily sat on the floor next to Luna, clearly feeling the tension in the air, even without fully understanding the gravity of the situation. Finally, Malcolm spoke, his voice controlled but heavy with emotion. "You closed our factory. You took the jobs of 120 people. You changed our lives completely. Yes. And now you want to fix it. Yes." Malcolm looked at Claire, then at Emily, who was watching them with big, worried eyes, and finally back at Rowan. How? It was exactly the question Rowan had been waiting for, and for which he still didn't have a complete answer, but he had the beginning of an idea. "I'm still working out the details, but I guarantee one thing, that land will not become a hotel, not anymore." It was the beginning of a conversation that would change all of their lives forever. 2 weeks had passed since Rowan had told Emily's family the truth. They were 2 intense weeks, full of meetings, calls, and planning, but also 2 weeks of renewed hope, of sleepless nights thinking about possibilities, of waking up every day with a purpose that went far beyond profit. The day after his confession, Rowan had called his lawyers and architects with clear instructions. Cancel the hotel project immediately. The reactions were of complete surprise. "Are you sure, Mr. Mitchell?" "We've already invested a lot of money in the planning," said his lead lawyer, clearly concerned. "I'm absolutely sure. Cancel everything. Pay whatever fines are necessary." "And what are we going to do with the land?" "I'm going to turn it into something completely different." Rowan spent the next few days intensively researching cooperatives, talking to experts, studying models that worked in other cities. The idea that had begun to germinate in his mind was taking shape, to transform the old factory into a community cooperative, managed by the very workers who had lost their jobs, but he didn't want to do anything alone. The first person he sought out was Malcolm. They met in a small diner near Emily's house. Malcolm arrived suspicious, still processing everything he had discovered about Rowan. "I have a proposal," Rowan said without preamble. "I want you to help me create something new in place of the factory." Malcolm frowned. "What kind of thing?" "A cooperative, a place where the former employees can work together as owners of their own business, where each person has a voice in the decisions and shares in the results." "And why would I help you?" "Because you know those people better than any consultant. You know their skills, their dreams, their needs. I have money and resources, but you have something much more valuable. You truly know the community." Malcolm was quiet for a long time, stirring his coffee. "How would it work?" "Each former employee who wants to participate becomes a co-op member, a partner in the enterprise. Everyone has a say in important decisions. Everyone shares the profits. The space would be used for different activities: workshops, services, production. And you. And what would be your role?" "I'll finance the complete renovation and the initial equipment. After that, you run the business. I'll just stay on as an advisor, if you want me." Malcolm looked directly at him. "Why are you doing this?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And because a 4-year-old girl taught me that there are much better ways to use money." In the following days, Malcolm helped Rowan get in touch with his former co-workers. The first meetings were tense, full of distrust. "He closed our factory, and now he wants to play the good guy," said Jose, one of the oldest welders. "What guarantee do we have that he won't change his mind again?" asked Rita. "I completely understand your anger," Rowan said at a meeting in the local church hall, "but I'm here to offer a chance to rebuild something better than what existed before." "Better for whom?" asked Maria. "For you, for your families, for the whole community." It took several meetings before people started to trust the proposal. Rowan brought in lawyers specializing in cooperatives to explain the legal aspects. But it was when Claire joined the project that things really started to change. "I've always dreamed of cooking for many people," she said at one of the meetings. "Making meals that feed not just the body, but also the soul." The idea of a community kitchen led by Claire opened up new possibilities. Soon, other people began to suggest ideas. A sewing workshop led by Ms. Carmen, who had always been skilled with a needle and thread. A maintenance area coordinated by Mr. Pedro Sato, who could fix anything. A bakery where some of the ex-employees could use family recipes. "And what about a space for the children?" suggested Anna, a mother of 3 young children. Many mothers in the area can't work because they have nowhere to leave their kids. Rowan noted everything carefully, each suggestion being incorporated into the project. His architects worked to adapt the old factory space to the new needs. The building was divided into functional areas after much debate. The old cafeteria became Claire's community kitchen, with professional equipment to prepare meals for the cooperative and also to sell to the community. A side wing was transformed into sewing and craft workshops. The section that once housed heavy machinery became the maintenance and small repairs area. The bakery was installed in an area with independent access, allowing it to operate at the most convenient times. And in the old administrative office, a colorful and safe children's space was created, where co-op mothers could leave their children while they worked. "I also want to include training programs," Rowan said at a meeting, "for young people from the area who want to learn a trade." "Like vocational courses?" asked Malcolm, who had become the main intermediary between Rowan and the former employees. "Exactly. Baking, sewing, basic maintenance, small business management, even adult literacy. The construction and renovation took 3 intense months. Rowan was there every day, not as a supervisor, but as just another worker. He carried materials, painted walls, assembled furniture. The co-op members initially treated him with suspicion, but gradually they realized he was genuinely committed to the project. Emily visited the site whenever she could, usually on weekends with her parents. She observed everything with curious eyes, asking insightful questions and making suggestions that were sometimes wiser than the adults. "Rowan, why don't you put plants in all the corners?" she suggested on one of these visits. "Plants make places happier." "That's a great idea, Emily." And so, the cooperative gained indoor and outdoor gardens, with flowers and plants collectively cared for by everyone. During the renovation, the community came together in a way Rowan had never seen. Entire families showed up on weekends to volunteer. Children played in the yard while their parents worked. There was always someone bringing snacks or offering extra help. "This is how real communities work," Claire explained to Rowan on one of those afternoons. "How's when everyone works together for something that will benefit everyone?" The cooperative was named Community Rebirth in a democratic vote among all the members. The name perfectly reflected what was happening, a rebirth of hope and opportunities. When it was finally ready, the space was completely unrecognizable. The time-stained walls had been painted with cheerful colors. The large or clean windows let in abundant light. The concrete floor had been polished and marked with colored lines that delineated the different areas. Claire's kitchen was a dream come true, with industrial ovens, huge refrigerators, and a spacious prep area. The sewing workshop had modern machines and large tables. The bakery constantly smelled of fresh bread and homemade cakes. The children's space was a joy in itself, with educational toys, books, colorful rugs, and walls decorated with drawings made by the children themselves. There was also a small community library, organized by volunteers from the area. The training area was equipped with basic tools and teaching materials for the courses that would begin to be offered. Malcolm would be one of the main instructors, teaching basic maintenance and welding. On the official opening day, a crowd gathered in the cooperative's courtyard. There were former employees of the old factory, local residents, local authorities, and people from other parts of the city who had heard about the project. Emily was radiant, wearing a new dress that Claire had sewn especially for the occasion. It was light blue, the color of her eyes, with small embroidered flowers. She carried Luna, who had also gotten a new dress to match. "Rowan," Emily said, running up to him. "Can I see everything again? I want to show Luna how it turned out." "Of course, Emily, you are our most special guest." He took her on a complete tour of the cooperative. Emily stopped in each area, observing everything carefully. In Claire's kitchen, she was impressed by the size of the ovens. "You can make cake for the whole city in here," she said, laughing. In the sewing workshop, she examined the machines as if they were treasures. "When I grow up, I want to learn how to use all these machines." In the bakery, the smell of fresh bread made her sigh. "It smells like heaven must smell," she said, repeating the phrase she had used the first time they entered a bakery together. But it was when they reached the children's space that Emily stopped and stared for a long time. There were children her age playing, mothers talking, an atmosphere of joy and care. "So it looks like my restaurant," she said finally, her voice full of emotion. "Only bigger." Rowan knelt beside her. "It is similar, isn't it? A place where people take care of each other, where no one goes hungry, where everyone is welcome." "You remembered my dream," Emily said, looking at him with those huge blue eyes. "Your dream helped me create all of this. You taught me how to dream again." The opening ceremony was simple but emotional. Malcolm spoke on behalf of all the co-op members, thanking them for the opportunity to start over. Claire presented the community kitchen projects. Other members explained how the different areas would work. When it was the authorities' turn to speak, Emily stepped forward. No one had planned for her to speak, but she climbed onto the small platform and asked for the microphone. "I wanted to say something," she said in her clear child's voice. The audience fell completely silent, surprised and curious. "I want to thank my friend Rowan, because he listened to my heart, because he stayed, and because now he's a friend of my family." She paused, looking directly at Rowan, who was in the front row. "He turned a sad place into a happy place, and now all the people will have a job again, and they will take care of each other, just like in a big family." The silence that followed was filled with emotion. Many people had tears in their eyes. Emily had captured in simple words what everyone was feeling. Rowan stood up and went to the platform. Emily handed him the microphone with a huge smile. "Thank you, Emily," he said, his voice clearly emotional. "Thank you for letting me be a part of this." He looked at the crowd, seeing faces he had come to know and respect over the past few months. "When I met Emily a few months ago, she told me about a dream, a restaurant where she would give free food to those who were hungry, where people would be cared for." Rowan gestured to the renovated building behind him. "This cooperative is the adult version of that dream, a place where everyone takes care of everyone." He paused, searching for the right words. "I've learned more from you in the last few months than I learned in years of running businesses. I learned that true success isn't measured in profits, but in how many lives you can touch in a positive way." The crowd applauded warmly, an applause that lasted for several minutes. Rowan came down from the platform and was enveloped in hugs from people he hadn't even known a few months before. Emily ran to him and hugged him tightly, with Luna squeezed between them. "Now everyone will have a place to work and be happy," she said. "Now everyone will have a place to truly belong," Rowan corrected, hugging her back. The rest of the day was a true celebration. People visited all the areas of the cooperative, tried the first products from the bakery, learned about the plans for the coming months. Children played in the courtyard, while the adults talked about dreams that now seemed possible. As the sun began to set, Rowan found himself sitting on the same bench where he had first talked with Emily at the school. This time, however, he was not alone. Emily was by his side, Luna in her lap, and around them was an entire community that had become his family. "We really did it, didn't we, Rowan?" Emily said, looking at the building that now glowed with warm lights. "We did, Emily. We created something truly beautiful together. And it's just the beginning," she said, with the wisdom of someone who dreams big. "There's still so much more good to come." Rowan smiled, knowing she was right. The cooperative was just the beginning of a new way of living and working, a way where people mattered more than profits, where children's dreams could inspire real change in the world. And it had all started with a little blonde girl with blue eyes who hadn't gotten a Christmas present, but had a heart bigger than any gift he had ever seen. 6 months had passed since the inauguration of the Community Rebirth Cooperative. Fall had arrived, painting the city's trees in golden hues, and life seemed to have found a new rhythm for everyone. The cooperative grew week by week. What had started as a project to reintegrate 120 former employees had become something much larger. Now there were 150 co-op members, including people from the community, who found an opportunity to start over at the cooperative. Claire's community kitchen was an absolute success. The community restaurant thrived impressively. Every day, a line formed at the door to taste the homemade meals that Claire and her team prepared with love. There were always options for those who couldn't pay the full price. "Just like Emily's dream," Claire would say every time she saw a child eating for free at the restaurant. The bakery was running from 5 in the morning, filling the neighborhood with the smell of fresh bread. Mr. Pedro expanded the maintenance workshop. Ms. Carmen's sewing area had become a small garment factory. The children's space was never empty, and the training courses were in high demand. The cooperative had become much more than a workplace. It was a community center where people met, children played, families celebrated, and life happened to the fullest. Rowan continued to run his hotels, but now with a completely different perspective. He had implemented several ideas inspired by the cooperative: spaces for children, partnerships with local producers, training programs for young people. But mainly, Rowan now had another habit that had become the most important part of his week. Every weekend, he visited Emily and her family. It started as sporadic visits, but quickly became a tradition. Friday night, Rowan would park in front of the small house and knock on the door, always being greeted with genuine smiles. Emily would always run to hug him, telling him all about school. Luna, now with a few loving patches after so many hugs, was always with her. Saturdays were for outings. Sometimes they visited the cooperative, other times they explored the city, always discovering new places Emily wanted to see. But Sundays were special. They were family day. Rowan would arrive early and find the house with that calm Sunday morning rhythm. Claire always welcomed him with fresh coffee and a warm smile. Malcolm, who in the first few months still maintained formality, now greeted him like a brother. Sunday morning always began in the kitchen. Emily insisted that Rowan help her make a cake. She had become an expert in simple cakes, always wanting to try new flavors. "Today we're making carrot cake," Emily would say, climbing onto a chair. "But I'm going to add cinnamon, because I think it will be tastier." Rowan helped her measure ingredients, mix the batter, grease the pan. It was a ritual they both loved, full of conversations about everything and nothing. Emily took the opportunity to tell stories from school, her plans for the future, her observations about the world. "You know, Rowan, I still want to have my restaurant," she would say, beating the eggs. "But now I know I also want to have a cooperative, for people to work together and be happy." While the cake baked, they would sit in the living room and Rowan would tell old stories. Emily loved to hear about what his life was like as a child, about the school he attended, about his family's hard times. "You were just like me," Emily would always say. "I was, and you helped me remember what it was like to be a child." When the cake was ready, they would gather on the porch for an afternoon snack. Claire would watch from the kitchen, smiling as she washed dishes or prepared something for dinner. There was a peace in those moments that she hadn't felt in a long time. Malcolm had changed a lot in recent months. The work at the cooperative had restored his confidence. He coordinated the maintenance area, was respected by the members, and had a stable income. More than that, he had regained his joy for life. After the snack, while Emily played in the yard, Malcolm and Rowan always ended up playing cards on the porch. At first, they were tense games, but they gradually became moments of true conversation between two men who had learned to respect each other. "How are things at the cooperative?" Rowan would ask, shuffling the cards. "Better every week. Mr. Pedro is thinking of hiring more help." "And Claire?" "Happy. Happier than I've seen her in years." Malcolm dealt the cards. "She always wanted to cook professionally." "And you?" "Grateful. I still can't believe all this happened." These conversations always flowed naturally, covering topics from business to life philosophies. Malcolm had become a source of wisdom for Rowan, who learned about the value of community work. At the end of the afternoon, Emily would always come and sit with them on the porch. It was her favorite time of Sunday, when the whole family was together and relaxed. On one of those Sunday afternoons, when fall was advanced and there was a cool breeze, Emily lay down on the porch sofa with Luna in her lap. Rowan and Malcolm were playing cards, while Claire finished tidying up the kitchen. Emily watched the two men for a while, seeing how they talked naturally, how they laughed at the plays, how they seemed like brothers who had known each other for a long time. She hugged Luna tighter and whispered softly, thinking no one was listening, "He's family now. We just haven't decided on the title." But Rowan heard, and so did Malcolm. And Claire, who was drying her hands at the kitchen door. For a moment, everyone was silent, processing the simple truth Emily had expressed. Rowan felt his eyes well up with tears. He looked at Malcolm, who was smiling in a new way. He looked at Claire, who was watching him with an affection reserved for family. "It's true," Claire said finally, coming to sit with them. "You are family. Our chosen family," Malcolm added, putting the cards aside. Emily got up and went to hug Rowan, still holding Luna. "You'll always be part of our family, right?" "Always," Rowan said, hugging her back. "If you'll have me." "Of course we'll have you," Emily said, as if it were obvious. Family is family. As the sun set, they stayed there on the porch, talking about plans for the week, about the small things of daily life, about the life they had built together. Rowan thought about how his life had changed since that day he met a little blonde girl who hadn't gotten a Christmas present. How a sincere conversation on the steps of a school had transformed not just his perspective, but his entire life. Now he had a family. He had a purpose beyond money. He was sure he was making a difference in the world, and all because Emily had taught him that simple dreams and generous hearts could move mountains. When it was time to leave, Emily walked him to the car. "Rowan." "Yes, thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for letting me be a part. See you Friday." "See you Friday." And as he drove home, Rowan smiled, knowing that on Friday he would be back, as he always would be, because now he had a place to truly belong. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.